There we go. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to night number 5 of Toastmasters District 11's Toastmaster Leadership Institute Club Officer Training Week. We are so glad you took some time out on a beautiful Friday evening. That temperatures we see range somewhere between like 6 and 25. So there's not a lot to do outside right now. So we're glad you spent your inside time with us tonight. This evening, we have the distinct honor of getting to spend some time with one of our past district directors, gentleman that was district director the first year that I was a division director. Lou Bagnell has held every role within the district leadership practically. There's a couple he hasn't held, but most of them he has. He also has the distinction of probably being the longest running logistics manager in the history of the district, which I think he was logistics manager for 41 years, if I'm not mistaken. For every club that Mark Walton has gone to, one of those is the same amount of years as Lou Bagnell was our logistics manager. But he stepped up, became a district director, did a fantastic job in that role during a very challenging year 2 years ago. And he is here tonight to talk to us a little bit about what happens within the district, how district roles work, how they roll up to each other, and how you can get involved and what you might expect from it. So it is my distinct honor to welcome tonight, to turn control of our meeting over to our friend, the one and only Lou Bagnell, distinguished Toastmaster and past district director. Give it up for Lou.
All right. Thanks, Scott, and glad everybody could be here tonight. I know there's some current district officers that we have that are on the call, and hopefully some future district officers as well. All of us tonight are likely at least club officers or may be club officers here in the not too distant future. Club officer elections are coming up. Usually they're in May. For district officers, we do elect some district officer roles. We do that at our spring conference around that time. So at our spring district council, our business meeting, there are some elected officers. There are also appointed offices. So those that are elected offices, we have our district trio, which is comprised of the district director, the program quality director, and the club growth director. And then there's division directors. So for all of our divisions, we elect those officers. If the officers are nominated and are on the ballot by the time we have our spring district council meeting, then the role or that person's elected. If they are not on that ballot, then they may be appointed with an election at a future district council meeting. And then there are other district officer roles that are appointed by the district director. So Scott's been very busy this year appointing for district officer roles. How many of you have been in the past interested in serving as a district officer role? I know we have some that already have been. So you have some current division directors, some past area directors that I see that are on the call as well. I got my first start as a district officer. It was in the role of an area director. Area director is a role that works with the club officers. So for the clubs, they have the 7 district offices. There are 2 of those district officers, the president and the vice president of education, which if you've been one of those, you are a member of the district council, which means that you carry a vote at the district council or at the spring conference if we're holding the business meeting in conjunction with a conference or separately. In the past, we've held them together because it's been in person. The last couple of years, they've been online. But if you are a president and vice president of education, you carry votes in the district council meeting. You are also part of an area council as well. So your area director can have a area council meeting that comprise of at least president, vice president of education, vice president of membership as well can be a part of that. How many of you have attended an area council meeting this year or in years past? So probably had them more, more popular in the past. We seem to have gotten away a little bit from having formal area council meetings, but the area council is where the area director who leads that meeting can decide things like when to hold the area speech contest or contests. If there are anything that a club or for that particular area, if there's anything needed from the district. So an area director is one of the more common of the district officer roles, because if you think about it, for every area that the district has, we need to have an area director in place. When I was a district director, we had 35 area director positions to fill. So out of the trio, that's 3 roles. There's at least another dozen or so roles at the district level that are appointed, that count towards the district officer credit. Many people have served as a district officer. They have done so because they are working towards their Distinguished Toastmaster Award, and the district officer is one of the roles to have in order to complete your DTM. So it was in the legacy system and is as well with Pathways. Any questions up to this point? I'm going to stop and catch some breath, get a little bit of a drink of water. So Scott is adding some of those roles that are ones that count in addition to the elected and appointed positions. So the district finance manager, the district public relations manager, the logistics manager is actually a role. It is one that I don't know if the logistics manager actually counts as district officer credit. You are still eligible to compete in speech contests. So that's one of the downsides of serving in a district officer role, is if you are an announced candidate for a district office, if you submitted paperwork, or if you're currently serving as in a district office, you are not eligible to compete in speech contests, but you are likely, if you are serving in an area division director role, you're likely holding speech contests, or you're likely serving as a contest official for those. All right, so any questions on what it takes to be an area director? I'm going to share some links in the chat, because there are qualifications that are needed to serve as an area director. Ideally, an area director has been a club president or vice president of education, so that they know a little bit about the executive functions within a club level, because as an area director, you will be advising the clubs on how to conduct their business. I will put in the chat, this is for those that are thinking about serving in district roles and would like to nominate themselves or be nominated. There is a district nominations form that has the qualifications and responsibilities for each one of those roles. Additionally, just like there is a club officer handbook, there is a district leadership handbook as well. And once I find that, I can upload that into the chat as well.
So Lou, what do area directors do, and why is that a role that someone might want to pursue?
Sure. One of the things, if you're likely serving or wanting to serve as an area director, is you've been a part of a club that has been fairly successful, a club that may have been distinguished or better, and you are wanting to share that with other clubs to help the clubs out to be successful themselves. So as an area director, you are visiting the other clubs in the area. So it may be an area that your home club belongs to. It may be a nearby area that you're overseeing. Each area has, at the beginning of the year, usually 4 to 6 clubs that are part of it. And you make arrangements to go visit the clubs. The last couple of years, it has been a little bit easier to visit clubs because we've been virtual, and you can attend the meetings either completely virtual, hybrid format. Some clubs are now back meeting in person again, and I have made one area visit this last year as a acting area director in an in-person environment. So that was refreshing, kind of nice. Everybody was wearing masks still, but it was just nice to be in a room again, having a lectern and being able to share that. What you do as an area director, you have a few responsibilities. Besides visiting the club, you submit a area club visit report for each of the areas. So you make a meeting, then you take some notes, confer with the club officers, and then submit an area visit report. You are also tasked with the speech contest. So for this year, for example, we have the international speech contest, which we have every year, and then we have the humorous speech contest. So as a area director, you are responsible for making sure that that contest is held and that you have the contestants as well as those who are serving in roles. And then as part of the district councils, district executive council, I should say. So the area directors, elected officers, so all the appointed elected officers are part of the district executive committee. The district executive committee meets usually on a bi-monthly basis, so once every other month, to discuss district business, what's working, what's not working. So those are some of the duties of an area director. By serving as an area director, it will give you a little bit of a broader perspective in what works for a club. So if you belong to a club that is associated with a corporate setting, it may be different than what you find in a community setting or an open club, and vice versa. If you are part of a club that has 20 or more members, and you visit a club and the club may be in the 8 to 10 member range, it's going to be a different environment as well. So you learn that there are many different ways to have quality Toastmaster meetings. It isn't always the same as the way that your home club does it. Sometimes things are different, and that's okay, and it works just fine. So I think that's an added bonus of serving as an area director, is that you are able to see different ideas. You can bring some ideas back to your home club that you may have observed at another meeting, something that was done really well there and was very effective for them. So that is an additional perk of being an area director. Questions on the area director role?
Hello, this is Canberra speaking. I got a good question about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I noticed that you explained the terminology of what the area director does and the biggest within the district, within Toastmasters in general. Now, my question is for the area director serving, how long is the term, by the way, when you first start to completion, and when does that happen in the period of re-election or newly elected people?
Yeah, so for all of the district officer roles, they are 1-year terms. So for the area directors, all of the division directors, the additional appointed roles that report to the district director, those are all terms of 1 year. Now, you may be elected or appointed for the upcoming year in April or May. and in some ways you kind of get an early start on the year. Some of your duties for the role may start in the month of May or June, even though your term technically starts at the beginning of July. One of the things as an area director that is good to do is connect with who your predecessor, so who is currently serving as the area director, and get to know contacts within the club, as well as just some information about the club if it's available, so that you're knowing in some ways what to expect when visiting the club. And then towards the end of your year, when you know who your successor is going to be, then sharing that information with the individual that will be taking on the area director role for the next year. So ideally, you're able to have an exchange, kind of like you do with club officers, where you know who those club officers are, connect with who is going to be there when you start, and then also whenever your term is finishing up, so you can share some information with that individual. Mark has a question.
Thanks, Lou. Fellow Toastmasters, I don't have a question, but there's something that Lou didn't say that I experienced, and I think it's worth knowing. The best part about being a division, or a district officer rather, whether it's an area or a division director, is that you will get out of your club. As much as you love your club, there are lots of other fun clubs out there too. You'll have a chance to see them, and you'll meet a lot of really neat people. That's the best part of it. There's also something that I think hasn't been mentioned yet. If you are working towards distinguished Toastmaster, this is a big step and a required step, something you'll want to do. And forgive me, Lou, if you mentioned those, I did not hear them, but I think it's worth mentioning. It's a lot of fun, and you will love the position. Being an area or division director is a hoot.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. And Rick has his hand raised as well. You're on mute, Rick.
I've been an area director before it was called area director, been an area director / area governor together at least a dozen times. And I've had a lot of other officer roles, but an area director is the most fun role you can have as a Toastmaster, bar none. You get to meet at least once, or if you go do a couple of years at a time, maybe 4, 5, 6 times, the people in every club that's in your area. And those are friendships that you make that will last you forever. So if you even have a chance, I expect every single one of you to sign up. If you haven't done it already, become an area director.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Rick. And Scott?
So one of the things that we haven't talked about, area directors also get the opportunity, because you're going to visit other clubs, you get to go speak at a bunch of other clubs. It's fantastic to be able to go and get different opinions on speeches. So you can get different evaluators every time you have a speech. You learn how different clubs operate, and you yourself get to challenge yourself to evaluate people that you would have never had an opportunity to evaluate their speech in your home club. So it's not just for a service towards Toastmasters, but you can grow immensely through it as well, because of the exposure you get to so many different people, so many different points of view. And if you're working on trying to do something professionally or specific within Toastmasters that you want to apply outside of Toastmasters, it's a fantastic venue to be able to get that feedback and grow.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Scott. Mark, do you got another comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm kind of talking, so you're just going to have to live with me.
Go right ahead.
Scott just mentioned you can speak at other clubs. Folks, if you're working your way through pathways and want opportunities to speak, when you're going to 4 clubs in a week, you can run through those pathways like a sprinter. It's real easy to finish a path in a hurry that way. Thought I'd point that out.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Mark. One of the things that I've always viewed the area director as, in some ways, your liaison, your the voice of the club to the district, you're the voice of the district to the club. So you let the club know about district events. You may have some reminders on dues renewals and making sure that officer lists are in on time. Some of the administrative things of Toastmasters that we want to make sure that we do, but you're also the voice of the club to the district and maybe to Toastmasters International as well. So Carla put something in the chat of a issue that she was having with a new member that had joined that was entered as, I think it was a dual or reinstated or one of those default options when adding a member rather than new. But then it wasn't giving the option, I think, of paying the dues properly or something like that. And we were able to get that resolved. We actually connected Carla with our, let's see, she's our region advisor, Karen Isaacs. Scott, do you want to address assistant area directors?
You can absolutely talk with them if you'd like to.
Okay. Yeah, so in the district, if you're an area director or a division director, you may have a assistant who can help you out with serving in the role. So now that assistant could be somebody who visits clubs along with you, helps with some of the events, the contests. We also, in the past, have had division level officer makeup training, and that's something that an assistant has been able to help out with as well. An assistant area director or even an assistant division director, maybe someone who is interested in serving in that role for the next year as well. So it could be somebody that you are mentoring. Doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be somebody that's also in your home club that perhaps in the past has served as a area or division director, and perhaps is mentoring, but also assisting, supporting you in your particular role. So it's something that you can look forward to doing when you're in that role, either as an area or a division director. All right, does anybody want to hear about elected district officer roles? Okay, so for the elected officer roles, as I mentioned earlier, we have the trio roles, which are the district director, the program quality director, club growth director, as well as the division directors. Now for the division director role, one of the things that, in the link that I posted, which was in the call for nominations, a division director at the time of taking the office shall have served at least 6 consecutive months as a member of the district council. Now, the district council could be a club president or a club vice president of education, not to be confused with the district executive committee. So those are two different bodies that we have, governing bodies within Toastmasters at the district level. We have the district council, which votes on elected officers, votes on use of district funds and other district business items. The district executive committee is one that meets a little bit more often than district council. District council meets twice a year. District executive committee meets 6 times a year. And the executive committee is comprised of the district officers. So depending on how many areas you have, it can be several dozen district officers that are part of the executive committee. The division director role and the trio member roles, those go through the elections process. So we have for this year, so last year I served as the district leadership committee chairperson. So we requested the individuals that were interested in serving in the elected positions, and we then vetted those potential officers and came up with a slate of officers for the election. This year, the individual that's doing that is Crystal DiCarlo, and Scott will have some information there to be nominated and be on the ballot for the division directors or the trio positions. You do need to submit a form in advance of the district council meeting, go through the formal interview process, and then be nominated by the committee. This is the district leadership committee. And that's comprised of the chairperson, which I was last year, as well as a representative of each of the divisions within the district. So each division will have a delegate serving on that committee that interviews the candidates and then nominates them for the ballot. So if you're interested in that, certainly connect with Scott or Crystal DiCarlo. There will be some information forthcoming, either emailed or through the district website. So keep an eye out for that if that's something that you're interested in doing. There are a handful of other roles that I did not mention that Scott had put up earlier that are appointed roles that also serve as a district officer credit. So Scott mentioned the public relations manager, the finance manager, and there's the administration manager. Did you mention that one as well? So those three are for credit. And then there are a lot of other appointed positions that aren't necessarily credit. Scott is the audit chairperson. That's an appointed role. I don't know that it's necessarily for officer credit. Same as logistics manager. There's some other ones that are a part of that process as well. There are some other committees that the district has as well. So if you're perhaps not able to commit to a full year as a district officer, there are some committees. In the past, I've been involved in the alignment committee, or as some people know it, the realignment committee, where we work to make sure that we have a sufficient number of clubs per area. As I mentioned earlier, areas have 4 to 6 clubs as a part of those, so no less than 4, no more than 6. And the alignment committee will serve to balance those across the district. And then every division should have 12 or more clubs as part of the division. So there are some opportunities to be involved for any of the district events. We also have the leadership training. So this is part of the Toastmasters Leadership Institute, planning those events, any of the contests. You can be involved at the district level without necessarily serving in a formal district role. If you are helping out with some of those events as you are going through your advanced pathways levels, serving as a district officer is one of those that can help you earn your Distinguished Toastmaster Award. But there are also the leadership projects. I was involved in helping out at one of the TLIs as part of my high performance leadership project for my first DTM, and was involved in helping out with the spring conference for my second DTM. So there's opportunities to be involved in the district and help out some of those as well. Scott, you've got your hand raised.
One of the main reason why we pushed back the actual spring conference this year and separated that out from the business meeting. So if you are running for a district office, normally you're not allowed to be a participant to help out with the spring conference. We separated them this year. We call it the Rick Holmeyer effect, because Rick was running last year and wanted desperately to help with the spring conference, but because he was running for a division director, he wasn't allowed to by rule. So our business meeting is April 23rd, our conference the third weekend in May. Because we have that separation, you can be elected to a district level position, and then still have the opportunity to help out with the spring conference or with the contests which really is an amazing time, from everything from the masked speaker to the actual contest itself, to all the education sessions and everything that we do during that week of the spring conference. We separated that out for that effect. And the other reason we separated it out, if you've ever been to a business meeting, you know that they can be a little bit long and maybe not the most energetic time that you will ever have to spend in your life with Toastmasters. So we separated it out because the conference is supposed to be fun. And we wanted to make sure that the conference itself was fun. So let's have the business meeting on a Saturday, a couple weeks before that, get all that out of the way, and then move into the conference. We can just have a great time and have a party. So if you're looking to run, it does not necessarily eliminate you from being able to help out with some of that bigger stuff this year, like mass speaker, spring conference chair, contest master, any of those things that happen during the May conference.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, the only thing that, I would add, if you are interested in serving as an elected officer or even an appointed one, before you submit your paperwork, just consider that if you are currently competing at any of the speech contest levels, that you hold off submitting paperwork until your contest has concluded. So if you do make it all the way to the district level, then it may preclude you from being able to be nominated for a district officer role. But just wait until because that's one of the things that Scott mentioned of once you're an announced candidate or on a ballot, it may preclude you from being able to serve or compete in contests. So if you're still an active speech contestant, hold off until your speech contest run is over. All right, so other things that serving as a district officer, it can also be a way for you to serve as additional roles within Toastmasters International. So everybody who has been a Toastmasters International president, has been a international director or regional director, has spent some time likely in at least one, if not all of the district trio, as well as the immediate past district director roles. I know we've had in years past, we've had a few of the district directors for District 11 that have gone on to serve as international directors. I think most know Alan Shaner, Magnus Jansen is another, and Ron Kirchgessner has been one. We have had, as District 11, we have had a international president. It's been at least a couple of decades ago, but Tommy Richardson was a international president, currently lives in Zionsville, Indiana. So we have had some who have served as international directors. Now they have a role that's a region advisor, which is kind of a role where you're overseeing and helping out the districts. So if you are serving in a district officer capacity, you do get to meet several of those individuals. When we went to one of our trainings as a district trio, I got to have lunch next to Deepak Menon, who was the international president at the time. So that was nice to be able to kind of rub shoulders with some of the Toastmasters royalty, if you will. Scott, go ahead.
One of the advantages of being a district officer, we don't necessarily talk about that much, isn't what it does within Toastmasters. It's the experience it gives you outside of Toastmasters. If you work in the corporate world, if you have a job somewhere and you have a boss somewhere, there are very few bosses out there that would look to you and say, I'm really hoping that you become less good at managing people and projects over the next couple of years. I really want you to take a step back and regress in your development. If that's so, you need to look at changing companies, because that's a bad thing. Being a district officer, one of the great things that it does is it takes that ability that we have as Toastmasters to fail privately so we can succeed magnificently in public. It kicks that up an extra notch. You can do things here, try your leadership skills, develop things you need to work on to apply outside of Toastmasters, and it won't have any impact on your job whatsoever. Your boss will not fire you because you became a district officer and maybe as you progressed through, you made some mistakes. This is where you learn those things, where you try something new, where you stretch yourself beyond where you've ever been before, so that you can then take the skills you learn in Toastmasters out into the real world and end up getting promoted. We heard tonight that Jane Croft just got promoted in the past year. And while she's not a district officer, she's taken what she's learned at Toastmasters and been able to take on better roles within her company. The same thing holds true as a district officer. You can do a lot of things that you would not normally get to do that become very valuable to organizations out there. And in this time that the Great Resignation, there are lots of jobs out there that are looking for the exact skills that Toastmasters district leadership can provide.
And on a number of occasions, I've written either letters of recommendation or have been listed as a reference for those who served with me, either when I was a division director as an area director or as a district director, a division director. So, certainly you have the opportunity to have an impact on the lives of others. So if you've worked with someone within Toastmasters, feel free, if you're connected on LinkedIn, to write a recommendation for them there and approve some of the skills that individual has. You're going to learn a lot about not just time management, but also event planning. You're going to learn how to work with people that have different philosophies and ideas, different feelings about decisions that are made. So change management is certainly something that you're going to learn about, in addition to project management. Business administration. I was a district finance manager. It's called the district treasurer one year. So I was fresh off an MBA and was thought that I knew accounting very well. But during that year, we had overdrawn our balance on our district bank account. And so that was a lesson learned. It was a good thing that it was in Toastmasters and not in my professional job, but less painful. But we did have to have about $100 in overdraft fees that were not budgeted for our Toastmasters district, but something to live and learn from. All right, any other thoughts or questions? I know Scott mentioned that we do have the district council this year. It will be virtual. It's only in the last couple of years that we have had it virtual. In the past, we have had it in conjunction with the spring conference because the voting had to be done in person, and the only way to get the voting done in person was to have them come to an event with meals and with keynote speakers and everything. So we do have a little bit of a luxury having it virtually, that we can still reach a quorum and be able to do that. Hopefully in the future, there is at least the option of being able to attend virtually and still have your vote count. Mark, you got your hand raised.
Yeah, I seem to be talking a lot tonight. Sorry, but here it goes.
That's good.
There's one other little tiny benefit to being a district officer that some people don't think about. Every path has at the end, I believe, a high performance leadership project, and everyone hoping to achieve a DTM award or recognition has to perform a DTM project. These are the same thing. When you are an area or division director, you have got your hands on lots of these projects, all that you will need yourself, and you can hand them out to your friends. For instance, Scott came and mowed my lawn one day when I gave him one of these projects. So you can use them usefully. That's not true, by the way, but it could be. My point is, it helps you with some of the more awkward parts of pathways, and it's very easy to implement. I enjoyed doing that.
All right, thanks, Mark. Scott has the reaction face. No, I think it is good. The more that you get to know others within the district executive committee, all those that are serving as district officers, you can connect. One of the other things that wasn't mentioned was serving as a club sponsor, mentor, or coach. That's something that the club growth director does. And I know when I was working towards my first DTM, and I just took a buyout package from a company that I was working at post MBA, and there was a corporate club that was starting. It was Covance on the west side of Indianapolis, and they needed someone to serve as a mentor. So a mentor serves for 6 months after charter. And I got to know some of the individuals within the club, and the president of the club was also a hiring manager within the company. So I had lunch with her and just said, hey, I'm interested in one of the roles here. What would I need to do to interview for a position? And so she said, well, let me look into it. I'll talk to HR. And the next day, the company's HR called me. That next Monday, I had an interview. And then by the next Wednesday, I had an offer to work for the company. So the job search was a little bit easier that way. And even though I'm now back with the company I'd left, the person who hired me at that company now works for the company that I work at again. So we both went to work for Lilly, and we're in the same department. So our desks are 10 feet away from each other again. So you never know who you're going to meet in Toastmasters, what impact they will have on your lives, and how long you'll stay connected with them. So lots of stories that I can certainly share.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts on serving as a district officer? Any unanswered questions that I might be able to help with?
I have a question.
Yeah, Kevin.
So Lou, so far when you were the district officer, I think I'm getting from this whole moral of those stories that somehow, even though it's 1 year doing the officer term as district, I think it gives you a lot of valuable experience of meeting people at the long run. And even though it's challenging, but it's get open if you really believe in the process, right? That you're willing to take a leap of faith.
Yeah, and I think there's been some uncertainty over the last couple of years of, will we remain virtual? Will we go back to live in person? And so I think some of that uncertainty has led some people to say, well, maybe I'm not comfortable going into a in-person meeting or venue, or maybe it'll be more difficult if the company doesn't allow visitors into the company. There's a lot of different things that are associated with serving in a district officer role. But I found, by and large, if there's a will, there is a way with serving as an area director or any of the roles. I think one of the things in Toastmasters that, say what's the G.I. Joe motto, knowing is half the battle. I think in Toastmasters, it's being willing to try is half the battle. If you care enough to be interested in the position, put your hat in the ring, you are going to find out that things will have a way of working out. And just being able to try, being able to ask for help. Nobody in a district officer role does things in a vacuum or all by themselves. It is imperative and incumbent upon the individual to find those who are able to help out. So I think that's another kind of added bonus, is that you find that you can do things with others that are kind of bigger than yourself. I think it's, the district mission is a little bit different than a club mission. The district mission is we build new clubs and we support all clubs in achieving excellence. And, sometimes we forget the, building the new clubs aspect of that is that when we establish a new club, whether it's in a corporation or in a community, we are providing not only a service to that organization or that particular geographic area, but we are doing something that not only the charter members, but maybe the children of the charter members, the grandchildren of the charter members, or decades of employees at a company can benefit from. There's clubs that have been in operation in District 11 since the 1930s. There's a club that I belong to that was chartered in 1953. I don't know any of those charter members, but I don't want to be the person who drops the ball and has the club fold during a time that I'm a member. I want to keep that going. And so I think when we can appeal to the noble motives, if you will, of those who are chartering a club and getting that off the ground, the more that we can think that it's not just about us, it's about a continuum, it's about a legacy of Toastmasters as a individual. You're a part of that. I think I've heard that people say a brand is what people say about you when you're no longer in the room. But in Toastmasters, we have the opportunity to have a legacy, and a legacy is when people can feel your presence even in your absence, because you were a part of their lives, you were a part of getting something established, you were able to set things in motion. Maybe it was processes, maybe it was a culture or a way of doing things, maybe it was just your personality that pervades throughout future generations or years. That's what you're doing, is whether it's a district officer or a club officer, you're leaving a legacy to those who follow after. So, Scott?
So, Lou, it's incredibly well said. There's one other piece to that we don't tend to think of necessarily as much as Toastmasters. We as an organization, we as a district, for many people are out there, we are the only social interaction that they have kind of outside of their work. We still have folks that haven't offices, that haven't gone back to the way that they worked 2 years ago. And for a lot of folks out there, we are their social interaction. We are their connection to kind of the way the world used to be, to who they want to become in the future, to be their fun and their sanity right now, to help them get through all the dark times that we have. Sometimes being a club officer isn't the reward you get, isn't necessarily from what you're doing for Toastmasters. It's that one person that you reach outside in a club that you would have never met before, that because you were able to build a friendship and a relationship with that person, you made their day and their life a little bit better. And as Lou said, that becomes your legacy. And if we can be that for somebody out there, then sign me up every day. Because these past couple of years have been anything but normal. But one thing that we have done as a district is very much come together. We have very much come together in order to support each other, even when it wasn't Toastmasters related. And I think that's an incredibly important part of what we do as district leaders, is figure out who we can help and how we can help.
Yeah, I think it's important too, when we talk about the Distinguished Toastmaster Project or DTM project, or in the past it was an HPL project. One of the most interesting ones that I was a part of is a blood drive. So we had a Toastmaster who organized a blood drive, and I was on the guidance committee for the project. So I was one of the people advising the Toastmaster who was working on it. And the question came up, and I had not donated blood in years, probably decades, maybe plural. And I was like, I hadn't quite thought about it, but, I couldn't be a part of it and not roll up my sleeves. So I donated blood. And as you learn more about that, each pint that you donate can save up to 3 lives, I think was the figure. So out of the 20 people that donated that day, there were 60 lives that were improved. So I think in some ways, when I first took on a district officer role, I thought, okay, I'm doing it because I've got something to prove. I wanted to look good on a resume. I want to prove that I can be a leader, that I can, serve in that capacity. And then the more that I have taken on district leadership roles, it's because I want to improve. So it's not what you want to prove, it's what you want to improve. There's always room for improvement. And, whether it's improving yourself so that, you cast yourself into a better light, look better on a resume, or if you're doing it because you're improving what your capabilities are, what you're able to do for others, I think that's kind of serving in a district officer role for the right reasons. If you're looking just to pad your resume, you probably won't have as pleasant of an experience because similar to the club officer roles, all the district officer roles are volunteer opportunities. You are giving your time, and you're not immediately gaining anything financially other than that you have some new skills that you might be able to leverage into opportunities in the future. But do it because you want to help out others, you have learned, and you want to give back. I think that's the best reason to serve in a district capacity. Scott, anything else to add? Any other questions from those that are out there on serving in district roles? Or
no, Lou, I'd like to say thank you very much for spending a Friday night with us talking through the district roles. And if everyone could please unmute for a second and give Lou a round of applause and thank you for coming out tonight, and thank everybody out there for spending your Friday nights with us.
All right, thanks.
Exceptionally well done. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mark Walton, do you have anything final to say as one of the serving trio members tonight?
Good night.
Fantastic. Lou, last thoughts?
No, I look forward to everyone's participation in helping to serve the district and helping the district achieve its mission. So, in our clubs, we have providing a supportive and positive environment. As district officers, it's providing the proving ground or improving ground that we can have to help out all the clubs to be able to do that. The people that you meet, the connections that you make, the skills, the best practices that you learn, those are all helpful to be able to take and bring back to others. So be a connector, be a district officer, and be able to provide others some things that you've learned and be able to pass along information. It's not always easy, but it is very worth it.
Absolutely. Lou, thank you so very much. You certainly helped the district uphold its promise this year that our goal for the year was to build a community where every time we gathered, it was meaningful, it was educational, and it was fun. So thank you very much for helping us keep within that mantra this year and tonight. Give it up one more time for Lou. Thank you very much, my friend.
All right, thanks.
This will be posted on the district website and the district YouTube channel. I'm going to stop recording now.